What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about if Marvel's Avengers is already dead. Now, I want to start this off by saying this. Look, I know this is another quote-unquote negative video. I know I'm going to get the people that say all you do is make negative videos on this. I can't say it enough where I've stood on this game. I've made multiple videos. I've made actually a lot of positive videos, so I don't want people believing the fake news that I only say negative things about this, but I do think this is actually a legitimate, like, big story that I do want to talk about. So really, it's two things. One of which, we know that the game has dropped under 1,000 users playing it on PC. Okay, that's very bad. That's very, very bad. That's not something that you'd like to see around a month after the game comes out. Now, have there been a lot of games that have dropped off, and do you expect a lot of games to drop off after several weeks? Yeah. In fact, it probably happens to more games than not. There's probably not that many people that play a game, a month, 2 months, 3 months after the game has come out, okay? Just in general. However, it's Avengers. It's a game that's supposed to live for years. It's a game that they have, Crystal Dynamics, Square Enix, they've put a lot of money and resources into one, making it a big thing, and then two, making it survive long term, which is, again, not, it's something that you can applaud them for, I guess, and say, okay, well, I'm glad they have a plan. I'm glad they want people to stick around for years. I'm glad they want to bring content to make people stick around for years, but as I've pointed out, as I think a lot of people have pointed out, there's a lot of weaknesses with this game, okay, there's no hiding it, but one of the biggest weaknesses is the endgame stuff. There's not enough to do. It gets old very, very quickly. You can get your characters to 150, and that will take a while, but once you do it, look, I did it. I got my Iron Man to 150. I helped my friend Arthur get his Hulk to 150, okay? I wanted to maybe do it again for like a Black Widow, but at the same time, there's other games releasing, as you can see from this channel, from Podcast Now, like, I play a lot of games, I cover a lot of games, and I also, I can't lie to you, I do get bored. Like, I don't want to play Avengers every single day for months and months and months. It's just not a game that gives you enough stuff to do. So I was actually planning on getting like a Black Widow to 150, but at this point, I'm not doing it. I'll play all of the DLCs as they come out. I probably won't get those characters to 150 either, though. So here's where we are. Again, dropping under 1,000, the lack of, and even Push Square says it. So, cinematic story with Destiny-like ongoing progression, but with a lack of meaningful endgame activities, players are beginning to lose faith. However, in a recent statement issued to Kotaku, the developer has assured that there are plenty of reasons to stick around in the coming weeks. Studio head Scott Amos says that the team is listening to community feedback and always working to make Marvel's Avengers the game we all aspire it to be. Again, though, if the game eventually becomes what you want it, there is a nice story there. There is value there. But at the end of the day, I would almost say that you failed. If the game 2 years down the line becomes the game you wanted to be at launch, again, like Star Wars Battlefront 2 kind of did that. I also, though, would argue that game started very solid. Like, the core of that game was very good, and it only got better to where it became, I would say, like an elite game, an elite Star Wars game by the end, because they kept adding to it. But if you want the game to eventually become something that already, doesn't that signal that you failed because it didn't start out at that? In the near future, there will be new Warzone mission types, a new outpost, and AIM's cloning lab, which sounds like a particularly tough challenge for players. Amos also points out that 2 new heroes are coming to the game soon with Hawkeye and Kate Bishop, and those will bring new missions that expand the story. He's confident that players will return to the game as we add exciting new late-game content and demonstrate that we continue to be focused on improving the game. Next week sees the arrival of a new blog post that will go into more details on the updates. It seems they do have a long-term plan with it, but with Blank throwing things off and Next Gen around the corner, it's not surprising that it's taking a little longer for these things to be implemented. Well, again, the question or the topic of this video, like, is the game already dead? The problem is, it is. The game came out, and I would say it had steam for about 3 to 4 days. Steam as in, like, excitement, as in people were very, very pumped for it. People were playing it nonstop. I would say after a week, this game had lost a lot of momentum because eventually you beat the story. The story only takes, if you only do the story missions, it'll probably only take you like 4 to 6 hours. If you do other things while doing the story mission, and I guess if you add like the iconic missions, stuff like that, you can get it maybe up to like 10 hours. But once you do that, you've done everything. And you're not going to replay the story, I don't think. You're going to probably go into the multiplayer. And then you go into the multiplayer, and again, it gets old very quickly. I would say even from a personal perspective, and I've said this before, there is something fun to it. There is a fun loop. There is enjoyment to leveling up your character. I think there's some like addiction level thing there going on with my mind. And I mean, I played this game almost every night for around 3.5 weeks. And I think that's actually I probably sunk 60, 70 hours into this game. That, I would say, is a really good thing. I mean, I got my value out of it. But, I mean, there were weaknesses all over the place. And, well, one, not everybody is like me. You know what I mean? There's a lot of issues there. And so, and again, even with that, I play it every day. I played it for almost like a month straight, but now I'm done. I really don't see any even if they do add new things to do, I got my main character that I wanted to main to 150. I don't really see value in doing it with anybody else. And the biggest issue, and again, I don't want to point at like fundamental issues with the game, they can add whatever they want. They can add more war zones. They can add more outposts. They're all the same thing. You fight the same 5 to 10 enemies every time. You look for the question marks. They're only one of three. They're an elite enemy. They're a chest, or they're a inhuman that you have to rescue. You go through multiple elevators with long loading times, which I'm just throwing that in there to kind of insult the game. You go through corridors that are exactly the same. You fight enemies. That's it. And then you fight one of 3 bosses at the end. Okay? Now, again, adding more bosses. And they've mentioned that. I'm not saying, by the way, they haven't mentioned that. That's something they can do that can greatly help the game out. Add a new boss. I will probably jump in. If you added a new boss tomorrow, I would play the game tomorrow. Okay? Now, would I play it for like a week straight? No. I'd probably play the boss and I would jump out. Add the heroes. The heroes will get you into it, I would say, for at least a couple days or a week. But to me, it just screams like, whenever you have something like this, when you have a game that really never had a lot of steam in the first place, it had it for a couple days, maybe the first week, and then it stopped, so many people have left, and it's, I think, fundamentally, and I'm not saying it's fundamentally a bad game. I'm not going to say that. I think to a lot of people, it's not a game that you can play for a long period of time. Okay, fundamentally to a lot of people, I don't think that's true. So you can add whatever you want, but I don't think it's got the core, like, it's super engaging hook to get people to play it nonstop. And so when you have that, you can add things all day long. But at the end of the day, you're going to get people back for a day or two, maybe a week, and then they're going to leave. For Honor had this issue, not to bring in a completely different game. Remember Ubisoft's For Honor? That game sold insane. In fact, it's one of the higher Ubisoft selling games ever. But an issue that game had, now I don't honestly know if it still has this issue because I assume it's just like the core, like the elite group that's still playing that game. But an issue that game had very early on is within a month, I think like 90%, something like that, the statistics of people left the game. So the game sold insanely good, at launch, but then everybody left it after a little while, probably because of the same thing. There wasn't too much into it, but then I will say this, then they, added stuff to the game, and the ongoing theme with that game is people would come back, but they would play the game for a couple days, and then they would leave it again, and so they would get boosts, like really big peaks, and by the way, I do mean big peaks, like a lot of people would come back to their game when they added the new characters, the new maps, the new modes, everything. A lot of people would come back to that game, okay? But then they would leave it again. Now, again, I think as time has gone on, I mean, the game has done very, very well. It's actually an example of a game that they just, keep adding to it and keep upgrading it, and it continues to get better. I don't necessarily know how the game is doing now, but I mean, I don't need Avengers to be like that, and it seems like that's honestly the best case scenario at this point, that you've lost a lot of people. Adding things will, get a peak here and there. Like adding Hawkeye and adding Kate Bishop, you will see a lot of people return. There is no doubt. There will be a massive peak when those characters come out. But how long does that last? 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, and then they're gone. And if you don't add a new hero then for 3 to 4 months after, just say Kate Bishop comes out, end of October or November, and then Hawkeye comes out in December, but then you don't have somebody else till February or March. Those 2 months, you can add 1,500 100 war. You could add, no joke, you could add 20 new war zones. You could add a new mission, I would say, daily. And I don't think it would work. I don't think people would return to this game unless you bring those heroes out. And then again, that only lasts for so long. So I really do think it was almost a thing that was doomed to fail at the beginning. I warned people about this, right? We talked about this where it's like, yeah, I'll come back every single time for the heroes or for the DLC. I'm sure a lot of people will. But what happens in between? What about those month and a half, 2 months, every single time in between these characters? What happens to the game then? Well, I just don't think anybody plays it. And I don't think you can have a game that is going to last for 2 years, say, if they want to keep this game going for 2 years. I don't think the game is going to be going for 2 years if already 1 month in there's 1,000 people playing it. Now again, that's on the PC. We don't know the console numbers, but say in a year from now there's like 100 people playing it a day. Say there's 1,000 people playing it across every single way of playing this game. Do you still support a game heavily with a lot of staff, with a lot of updates for 1,000 people playing it? No, not for a game with this budget. You just do not do that. So there's some issues. I'm worried about this game. At the same time, it's becoming a thing where I just don't care, and I have to be honest with that, right? I mean, I'm going to jump back in when there's things that appeal to me. I think that's probably the case with everybody, and that's what I implore you guys to do. If you're out of this game, you jump back in when you feel like it, and you go from there. The game may still be around long term. I don't think it probably will, but you just have to take it day by day, and the good news is there's plenty of other games to play, okay? And by the way, this is not a full-on hate video. I'm trying to do my best to talk about this game in a broad sense, right? And I've made positive videos about this game before. Anyway, make sure you guys are subscribed to this channel. Make sure you guys hit the bell icon so you guys know when these videos go up. Let me know what you guys think about this topic in the comments, and I will see you all for tomorrow's video.